Have you ever wondered where the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place? Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your host, Brian Berneman, who believes that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world. We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers. From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Brian Berneman, your host, and I have the pleasure to be joined all the way from Magnified by Jacqui O'Connor. Thank you so much, Jacqui, for taking the time, for being here, for what I know it's going to be a really beautiful conversation. And for everyone that is watching and listening to us, what can you share about you and your journey so far in this lifetime?
Thank you. Great to be here, Brian. And my pleasure. My pleasure. I think for me, like I don't know. I feel like there's just so many parts, and I feel like really bringing in that multidimensional being is a big piece. And yeah, it wasn't until recently, like in the last decade, that I realised, that we actually transition and transform on the regular. So so for me, my journey's is making more sense now. But for me, came into this world in the 70s and was educated and through the Catholic education, religion and schooling, great outdoor Kiwi upbringing. I also had the added bonus of being born with a cardiac condition. So I had open heart surgery as an 8-year-old, but I had a procedure when I was a 4-year-old. In the hospital system, and then was put onto a waiting list. So I adapted. I just blown away with my adaptation. So at 4 years old, it was pretty scary going to hospital and having a procedure, and then knowing that I had to go back to that place. So I created some phenomenal adaptations as young as 4 years old that got me through until I was 8. And then that health journey was very much. You're fixed, you're physically fixed, but it wasn't until I went through a major transition in the last decade that I realised that I actually hadn't addressed my spiritual or emotional journey through that. So that happened as an adult. Just continued to develop really amazing adaptations through my life to survive. And until I didn't, until I had what I call my Mack truck moment, which was 9 years ago, and I literally was landed on my ass really, so super grateful now for it. At the time, it was brutal as, and I really just did want to take a pill, and make it all go away, but that wasn't part of my journey. My journey was really to go in. And that's what's been happening, and then now as a result of that, and a result of so many other people's journeys, our pain to purpose stories, those of us who are the bridge from that type of upbringing to what is a choice. I now put my hands down and pull others up, and just as others had pulled me up. But it was a real wake up. There's no other it's not the word for it, really. So that, and then along the way, I'm highly sensitive. I'm highly empathic. So given my health journey as a child, it seemed really quite natural to go into healthcare. So I've been a New Zealand registered nurse for 30 years. And I just lived like I'd seen my mother live and my grandmother live, and that was busy, full, giving. I've always been on PTAs and Plunket committees and community fundraisers. I've always done that. It's very much part of what I saw. And so that's all been part of my life as well. And then I guess it's really alchemized into Which Have a Hand, Heart Place Hospital, which is a registered charity, so caring for the carers. So those of us who are highly sensitive, highly empathic, it's been pretty much portrayed as a bit of a curse and to toughen up. But in all reality, more and more of us are waking up to the fact that it's actually a massive gift. And it's not toughening up, it's actually grounding it in and having some more examples of what the magic and miracles and the absolute power of being highly sensitive and highly empathic, and how much the world needs that right now. So yeah, it's been colourful. There've been lots of curveballs. They still come. I just seem to have more and more tools in the kitty to navigate them, but also more and more understanding that, I'm meant to feel them to reveal, to heal. So just because I'm standing here in leadership doesn't mean that doesn't still keep happening. But I also, just more and more aware that when those curveballs comes, it's another opportunity for leveling up that leadership, and there'll be someone else that will want to hear that and understand and celebrate, and yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacqui, for sharing all of that. I often find it interesting, one, how people answer this or share their journey, where they start from, what they focus, and I really appreciate that facet of both being this multidimensional and being able to understand that it's been a journey and that you have adapted in different ways, as we all have that capacity to adapt, and as well to understand through your own experience and through your learnings what was important, and creating something and stepping up to a place that where you're now in a place of leadership to care for carers and to understand, as you were saying, that being an empath, as I have talked about in this podcast a lot of times, like it's a superpower. Like, and even though a lot of times society tries to be like, no, like just, like either what you were saying, toughen up or suppress that, and just it's kind of like, well, no, this is important, and being able to bring these elements, especially in the healthcare space, as I have worked with a lot of healthcare practitioners, and I know all of the people that I have worked with that come to me because they are burnt out. Like, if not, they don't come to see me. And I think that a lot of times, and most likely more about this, it's a systemic issue. It's a systemic issue of how we are, both the system is and how the individuals we have understood how things need to potentially be in order to sustain ourselves in those spaces. So I would love it if you can share a little bit about how the state of healthcare has been, especially for the carers, in this last 10 years that you've been especially doing this.
Yeah, thank you. It's my zone of genius, or my place of power. So 9 years ago, when I realised that I couldn't just use the adaptations that I'd used for 4 decades anymore, I bravely sought help. And I say that because when you are the help, it's very challenging to ask for help. And there's stats around that. I think 80% of frontline workers don't access support because of the stigma. And I remember when I did ask for help, I mentioned it to another nurse at the time, and her mum had suddenly passed away. And I said, "Oh, have you accessed some EAP, Employment Assistance Program?" She said, "Oh no, I can't do that." And I thought, because I thought my story, my experience was way less than that. Like, her mum's just dropped dead, like, and I'm asking for help. Like, I mustn't be very strong. I must be very, I'm not very resilient. So, and that's why I created Heart Place Hospital, so that it is a safe, soft sanctuary, so that we don't have to think that way. So, yeah, so number one, there's statistics to show that people don't actually access support. So that's massive. So we're literally, and Gabamate reports that so many people that work in health or education are doing it to fill a void that they've experienced. So if you think in that respect, there's many of us unhealed healers working in the healing industry. So we've got a lot of boundary wounds, and we've got a lot of limiting beliefs because we've come into these roles and we've been trained by others who have got boundary wounds. So it's passed on. So very, very little has been passed on about how we can heal those boundary wounds, on how we can advocate for ourselves and others, and how we can actually craft a life that best suits us. So I think about me now, I think about myself for those decades working in a hospital, night shift, the food that I would have eaten, the energies that would have been in this place, how much energy I would have been leaking, and how much energy that wasn't mine that I would have been taking on. And I just think, no wonder I burnt out. So I sort of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with burnout. I know people understand the language, but I really do think it's not our issue. It is that, like you say, the systemic issue that is burning us out to keep other people warm. It's tricky because we're having to choose, a paycheck over a moral compass. So that's where Heart Place Hospital comes in, is that we not only support people to heal from those boundary wounds, but we also support them to create a sustainable offering so that they can still deliver and support as they've been born to do, because so many of us are born to serve. However, keeping other people warm without burning themselves out is so important. And if we can support them to create sustainable ways to do that, then we keep them in New Zealand. We keep them supporting our society to thrive rather than them heading overseas and sharing the expertise with others. So it's massive. It's big. It is systemic. I think it's totally doable. I think we still absolutely need conventional medicine. I think in Heart Place Hospital is about integrative medicine. So when we work with individuals, we support them with creating a healing roundtable, and conventional medicine is absolutely welcome on that table. And then we introduce them to other modalities. So we're very much EAP, so Employment Assistance Program on steroids. So when with EAP, when I accessed it, I just got the next talk therapist in line, and we weren't a great match. And so we support people to really create a healing roundtable that meets their needs, but also meets them in partnership agreement. So meets with their expertise and their expertise. So yourself, our mental and physical reality is manifested by our experiences in our environments. So if we're meeting someone for the first time, they're so unaware of all our experiences and environments, whereas we are as sovereign self-healers. So I see the service providers that we provide are there to walk alongside people, but also there's also like people learn in different ways, right? So some people like to have a one-on-one session or an online session or a group session, and other people love to do what you're creating here and listen to a podcast and get some insights from someone else. So it doesn't have to be a one size fits all. And it can be, I love talking about breadcrumbs, like, okay, what's what's the part of your life circle right now that you feel needs supporting? And let's start with that breadcrumb and start just opening up people to the possibilities of being their own self-healer and being sovereign and being independent and understanding and celebrating their own body and mind. And then they can gather who they need to support them. So I think it's totally doable. And that's the reason why I created Heart Place Hospital. It was what I was looking for so desperately 9 years ago, a soft, safe sanctuary where I didn't feel like I wasn't sick enough or my story wasn't big enough, that I wasn't too much, or that I wasn't too quiet or too loud or too anything. And I wanted to be met with my needs. So I knew at the time my needs were addressing what I went through as a young person. And then they're evolved. I still have needs, so that they evolve. And you'll see with, like, I look at the history of Heart Place Hospital, it's my journey, literally my journey. So I've gone from mindset work big time into the different transitions in life, particularly for women. So birth, menarche, menstruation, sacred sexuality, menopause, and death, all the sacredness of those transitions. I feel like we've medicalized and pathologized these natural evolutions that we go through. You'll also see things like grief in a lot of the work that I do, because that's something that I've experienced hugely with going through a transition, and also raising children, and they're going through their transitions. And yes, everything you see that I've done, it's literally been my personal journey and what I've gone through. And often it resonates with others, right? You'll know that too. So I'm very, very passionate about that, because I feel like we've pathologized and medicalized a lot. We're very quick to take a pill when there's pain, when it's a message, and we're missing these vital messages. And we're quick to dampen down or create adaptations or addictions or whatever your adaptations are, to dampen down when we're feeling things, because we haven't normalized that. Once again, it's an opportunity for a wee pivot or a change of direction. So, but I just didn't see it being normalized, and that's why I created the space, so that we could start seeing some examples of. And yeah, it's because I really wanted to feel, I really wanted to emote, and I never felt safe, because as soon as I would say to someone, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit crunchy," or "I'm experiencing anxiety today," someone would want to fix me. And I don't need fixing. I'm a multidimensional whole being, and these parts of me, all the parts of me are welcome, because they've helped me to survive to this point. And some of the parts, they're not so friendly, but they've been survival parts.
I think, Jackie, like, one of the things that, well, there's so many things in what you're sharing, but one of the things that I usually see is that for a lot of people as well, not only have we been conditioned in ways of how to deal with our own experiences, which for the most part, it hasn't been normalized to feel, to emote, to have time to rest, to do things. And majority of people have grown up, and we're still in majority of the system that is, you need to perform and you need to be on and you need to, like, just take a pill and carry on. And that, as you're saying, that's why then a lot of people that they keep on seeing that, and it's like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Like, I feel like I cannot keep up, or why they are burning out, because they also, as you were saying, there's this stigma of going to seek help, because that's not what they see that it's happening. And especially, like I see a lot of health workers, and their hours are sometimes crazy amount of hours that they're working, and they are giving and giving and giving. And one of the things that I usually at the university to all of my students, when every semester, one of the main things that I tell them is we need to reorganize things to make sure that we are the most important person in our lives. That doesn't mean that others are not important. That just means that because you have been so focused on the giving and putting others first, that means that we, majority of the time, are neglecting ourselves and our needs. So by doing that, we're able to then be more supportive of others and be more of service because we are well. Like that's, I often say, like the airplane mask example,
Yeah.
always put your mask first on and then go and support others. But as you're saying, as a systemic thing, then we individually are going through it, and depending on our own experiences or the people around us, perhaps we don't see an opening. And with what you're doing, there is an opening, both
Mm.
through your own journey and the Heart Place Hospital, that is a place to be able to see more, like as you're saying, multidimensionally, or through different perspectives, ways of being with ourselves and ways of supporting ourselves and ways of supporting others by supporting ourselves. And I think this is so important to be able to recognize that, sometimes we need to, some people have only work with their mind and they haven't focused on their body. Or
Mm.
sometimes that way around, or, there's different, and we're all unique and we're different. And the more that there's space and opportunity for exploring, okay, what are your specific needs and how can we support that all together to understand what you need. And I think that that's as well the approach that I tend to go. It's like, well, I might not be the right person for everyone that comes to see me, and perhaps they come to see me for one thing and I'm like, well, I think that this other methodology might be the best one for you at this moment. And that, of course, that comes from experience, but there is such a lack of knowledge as well from majority of people, not only like of perhaps they aren't fully ready to step into something different or to seek support, but also perhaps they don't even know what kind
Yeah.
of support there is. And I think that the more, like you mentioned government before, the more that, especially in the medical space, there is people like him talking about
Mm.
this, because he's not only in the trauma space or in the healing space, he is a big voice. He's also in the medical realm, he's a big
Yeah.
voice. So people
Yeah.
like him are able to bring a little bit more understanding, and perhaps for some people giving them the permission that they need to go and explore some of these things. Because as you're saying, your own life experience or other things are what shaped you to do what you've been doing.
Yeah.
And if we haven't been able to look at that and be like, oh, I haven't actually, as you were saying, I haven't actually explored this emotionally or spiritually,
Mhm.
how can I actually heal fully when all that I focused was on the, yes, okay, like really important, the physical aspect as you had,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
then what else?
Yeah. It's totally true. Yeah. And I think that's why we focus so much on frontline workers, because if we can see them modeling this, then the ripple effect is so great. So we focus on teachers, people in education roles, and people in health roles and parenting roles.
Mm,
Um, and you really hit it, because of the school system we go through, which is so archaic, and it's it's directing us to be quite in the industrial factory era. Is that we pop out 13 years later and we actually really don't know who we are. So when it comes to understanding and celebrating ourselves, we're actually like, well, I've just been literally indoctrinated into popping out and being able to work in this one type of way. Well, what we're discovering now is that so many of us, and this is great, this is why I love working with parents as well, is because even if they are in the school system, then they can model this kind of behavior at home, and these kids can, once, they can be bridges like us, they can experience two sides of, and we've all got choice. We're all sovereign. We've got choice, and it's great. We're just seeing more and more people choosing to actually go, you know what, I'm gonna live to my design. I'm not gonna live in a society that doesn't suit my human design. It burns me out all the time, and so then I start ruminating, thinking there's something wrong, bad, and broken with me. I'm actually going to step out, and this is what I love about Heart Place Hospital. Not only do we see those who have hit what I hit, the Mack truck, but we are actually seeing lots and lots more people who actually don't want to be hit, but don't even want to be hit by, be tapped on their shoulder. They want to know now, like. And so that's really exciting. So probably 50-50, and I'd love to see it that it's 75% of people. That's kind of 100% people ultimately, but quickly to 75% of people who are going, actually, you know what, I know I want to serve. I know I've got expertise. I know this is what brings me joy. I want to deliver this, and I want to deliver it to my society, my country. But I don't want to get sick in the process. So that's really beautiful. And then those who are coming because they've had the 4x4 on the back of the head or the Mack truck, then we can actually support them with precision medicine. So we can actually intuit or using the technologies that we've got now. We've got amazing technologies. And that's the beautiful thing about Heart Place Hospital. I call myself the philanthropist. I raise the awareness and the funds so that we can have our vital frontline workers accessing this precision medicine for themselves, so then they can tell others. And we can start bringing it, really normalizing it back into society. And I know really quickly we can create a really well society. And I think given the size of New Zealand and given the amount of grassroots people that we've got, look at things that are well established already, like Kids Can and Gumboot Friday, who saw a real void. These charities have fundraised and people have got on board with it. And now we have children getting meals and raincoats and shoes, and children getting talk therapy that would never have accessed it. So I know that we can do the same with Heart Place Hospital. We can get behind it, and we can start giving our really vital frontline workers who, have, many of them have come in because of their own life experiences, and we want the life experiences.
Yeah.
But we want them as healed healers.
Yeah, and I think that, as you're saying, Jacqui, I think that it's so important to understand at this moment we have this, let's put them in two camps, like the people, as you're saying, that it's like they already burnt out or they already got that smack on their face or whatever it is that they need, that rock bottom or whatever, to realize, oh, I need a change. And then there's a lot of other people that is more of the space that I try to advocate. And one of the things, like teaching at university is like preventative.
Yes.
To be able to understand, like, let's not get to that place, because that was mostly my journey. My journey was more of a preventative.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
I know. And I know that it's not everyone's, but I know, I know how much I prevented myself from going through. I know how much, as you were saying, earlier, I know how many experiences I went through that then I had the capacity and the tools to meet those experiences, where I know that if I didn't have those experiences would have broken me. And I know how important it is to understand, okay, we need the SOS like here, and then we need, okay, this is the preventative path. And both things are okay. And hopefully, as you're saying, we get to the place of being more and more just preventative, because if we are bringing this more of a knowing in society, in education, for parents, for the frontline workers, everyone, slowly that ripple effect is going slowly or fast.
Yeah.
That ripple
Do it
effect is
fast.
going to. I know the ripple
Yeah.
effect is going to be huge. And I know. Like, I was just when you were talking before, like it popped into my mind that a few years ago when my housemate before she passed away. She was in the hospital after going through a round of chemo, and
Right.
and I went there to the room, and there were other people in the room as well, going through different things. And I went with my singing bowls, and I did a meditation and then a sound bath, and everyone there was like, wow, kind of like like after being, and this is both the nurses and the people there,
Yeah.
like, and I was like, why this doesn't happen more, because everybody loved it.
Yeah.
And it was so healing for everyone that was there. And it's part of the thing that hopefully we start to integrate more of the
Yes.
dimensional or the multidisciplinary pathways that we have in terms of like, okay, like, yes, of course this medical allopathic medium or in the hospital, this is important. And as well, we can do some other things, like, even, and sometimes I tell to people, even if the research is not yet there for a lot of these other things like sound healing,
Mhm.
the fact that these people all, it ended and they were all so relaxed and so at ease, and they were all talking about how they felt. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's enough of information sometimes to know,
Yeah.
okay, why don't we do more of this?
Yeah. I know. I'm
But
here for it. I'm here for it. And yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, gosh, why me? Why am I doing this work? This is crunchy and tricky, and why do I look? Why am the one? Why like this? And then it's times like that I go, that's why.
mm,
Um, that is why. And yeah, it's more and more people. It's just
mm,
more and more people. And I think about 9 years ago when my metric hit, like I couldn't find anybody. Whereas now it's really easy to find people who are like, actually, you know what? I really want to eat some whole food, or I've been to this dance class, or I've experienced
mm. Yeah.
sound journey or meditation. And I mean, there's so much science around what cortisol and stress does to us. I mean, no one can dispute that. And we know that when we have these experiences, we go into our parasympathetic nervous system, which is so lovely and so
Mm,
healing and rest and repair.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how it all, but I just keep creating my beauty in the corner of my world, and keep showing up, and following my breadcrumbs, and more and more we keep expanding to be known by more people. And our hope and dream is that we'll be a charity of choice that people will think about. So rather than buying your nurse or your teacher a box of supermarket chocolates, you'll support them to access the support that we offer. And our range, we meet people where they're at, whether
Mm,
self-care is very new to them or mindset work is very new to them, all the way up to galactic support. So if that's something that they're craving. And it's really interesting, the amount of people in the front line who are these empaths and highly sensitive, their gifts are really coming online, and it can be quite scary. I mean, I remember when mine did, I was like, am I going crazy?
mm,
So they can come here and have a really safe, soft land, and we can hold them and create a healing roundtable so that they are safe, that everything's covered, and so many of them end up being our service providers. So we call them visitors. We don't call them patients or clients, because we're bringing back the etiology of hospital, which is welcoming in of visitors. And so many of them end up being service providers, and our service providers always stay as visitors, so they can access support at any time.
Yeah.
And support might be, it might be a ecstatic dance. Come along to an ecstatic dance, and they know that dancing for an hour to their favorite DJ, they can create, they can release. I always talk about our iCloud storage getting filled up, and these modalities, sound journeys, dance, whatever it is, movement, other modalities, healing modalities, trauma modalities, they just create space in their iCloud storage. And in that space, in those voids, we can actually start saying, wow, I'm curious about this. Or, yeah, and I think that's the beauty of Heart Place Hospital. We've got a podcast as well. So people, if they're curious, if they want to actually, you know what, I really don't know who I am. I have no idea. Then, we've got a podcast to talk to that. If people have got they know they're holding on to some trauma and they really want to release it fast, like lightning speed fast, without any discomfort, then we've got modalities to support that. If people want to understand what they're meant to be feeding themselves, it's so tricky these days. There's so many messages. Then we've got precision medicine in that. If people are feeling that they're got some something that's holding them back, we've got support with that. I just wanted, something just popped into my head, was around that kind of precision medicine, and I know, so everything that we offer at Heart Place Hospital I've done. So every service provider, I've accessed their support, and it was just really interesting. We've been doing a lot of work around viruses and pathogens, and so I was riddled. I had E. coli in my blood, in my nervous system, so that means it's been there for decades. I had Streptococcus staph aureus, and we're meant to have an element of viruses, good and bad, and or pathogens, good and bad, and then the more and more and more frontliners that we've had through this service provider, the more we're like, wow, just what we've been exposed to, not to mention the emotional and the spiritual, but the physical that we've been exposed to, and the difference it's made for me, for everyone, and then the ripple effect of that going on and supporting our vulnerable citizens, and going, actually, you know what, like, yes, we're getting symptom management here, but how about we get to some root causing and some support that way? And so it's really cool. It's really magical.
Beautiful. And as well, I think that Jacqui, and something that is interesting, that something that you were mentioning before about being an empath, or starting to get into one's gifts and talents, that a lot of times our more like masculine patriarchal system doesn't allow a lot for being in the feminine. And I keep on repeating this is both for male and female, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's about that softness, it's about that receptiveness, it's about the capacity to empathize, the capacity to be compassionate, the capacity to be kind, and that, how a lot of times I have seen it through the years, has been put down as like, that's soft, that's not, it's kind of like, no, like you need, as you were saying earlier, you need to toughen up. It's important to understand how we can actually be either really balanced, or to allow more of the feminine energy that is super grounded, and that it has a lot of power as well, because that actually is what I would want in someone that is caring for me. Like, I want that energy. So it's a lot of times really, really interesting, that thing that I keep on seeing, both on energy and what's allowed, or what we perceive that might be allowed based on how the system behaves. So I often think that's really interesting. And Jacqui, I would love to know, like, if there's people that are like hearing or watching this conversation now, and they You just mentioned before a couple of different things, but what would be some of the things, whether they go to Heart Place Hospital, or whether they are need to seek
Mhm.
support elsewhere, to someone that is in those spaces and potentially is burnt out or getting close to
Mhm.
burnout, what would you suggest to them? Where do
Sure.
they start? What are those breadcrumbs that you were
Yeah, sure.
mentioning before?
Yeah, so we open to everybody, so everybody can access Heart Place Hospital. What we do is where we can, we provide funding for those in the front line. So the reason that we're open to everybody is one, so that we're an umbrella, so people can see what is on offer, but also all our service providers are contracted in and they donate back into the charity. So every time you use one of our service providers, we get funding back into the charity to fund those in the front line. So that's our beautiful feminine model of a circular economy.
Mm,
And so you don't have to be a frontline worker per se, but we can support you with creating a care plan and introduce you to a healing roundtable. So the question is, how do they do it? So they can book in an explore call. But we also have a YouTube channel. So if anyone on that YouTube channel interests you, and then you can reach out to them and say that you've come through Heart Place Hospital.
mm, yeah.
Um, we also have a physical hospital here in Mangawhai, so we accommodate people, and not always unwell, but we've definitely had people straight from hospital who have been unwell. We do satellite clinics throughout the whole of New Zealand. So our service providers will create a clinic and we will amplify that and advertise that. And where we can, we will fund those in the front line. And we do workshops right throughout New Zealand. And then we do fundraisers and fundraisers. So fundraisers is raising the awareness and raising the frequency, and fundraisers obviously to raise funds so that we can support our frontline workers. And we're currently working on, we've got a sister charity, Te Kiwi Maya, who support those in the Defence Force. And they do 4 times a year, they do a week-long retreat for people from the Defence Force. Very, very similar, very multidimensional
Mm,
support. Our model is very focused on te wheke. So there's te whare tapa whā, which is a familiar model of support, whereas te wheke is on the octopus, so the 8 limbs of the octopus. So looking at mind, body, soul, and family, but also looking at our family history and more. So yeah, we're working on creating retreats so that we can actually get our frontline workers in, and once again, very bespoke. So if they want to support on nutrition or breath work or some precision medicine or rest. And we have all sorts of modalities, so equine therapy and havening and EFT, which I'm sure your listeners are familiar with. So we meet people where they're at with that as well. So ever evolving, and yeah, just look forward to when we've gathered more and more data so that we can actually take it to the government and prove that when we support those in front of our most vulnerable citizens, then the ripple effect off to the rest of society is worth it.
yeah.
And already got people in Australia. I've got multiple people in Australia and throughout the States who are like, we want to model this movement. So I really truly see New Zealand being pioneering in this. And where we've landed in Mangawhai is very, very much, it's like a mini Byron Bay of Aotearoa. So it's a really good point I believe, to have the first of many heart place hospitals.
Yeah.
But the other thing is reach out. If you'd like to be a service provider, reach out, because it's such a bonus. You know, you can become under the umbrella of Heart Place Hospital. We can provide plenty of visitors for you, but then you can also become a visitor yourself. Yeah.
Nice, beautiful.
Yeah.
Jacqui, before we finish this conversation, is there anything, perhaps just reiterate something that you have mentioned, or perhaps something different for everyone that is watching and listening? What is something that you would like for them to know?
I think probably just reiterate really is, and if you're in New Zealand listening to this, you know, you'll be familiar with Kids Can. So we feed and we fundraise to feed and clothe our kids. And in Gumboot Friday, we support with talk therapy. But there's really is very little for those who are actually on the barometer of our future generation. And, you know, we are only the product of how we were brought up. So sometimes, you know, we need to have examples. We need to see these other options that we have of being. And so I would really love for people to get behind Heart Place Hospital. And like I said, rather than buy a supermarket brand of chocolates for the teachers or nurses or your GP or doctors, then consider supporting us as we continue to care for them. And just know that it came out of someone's experience and what they were looking for, and now they've created something that they were seeking. So
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, Jacqui, for everyone watching and listening to us, let us know, what did you hear? What resonated with you? Did you already know about Heart Place Hospital? If you're a health worker, a frontline worker, perhaps this is something that you could also share with other people that you work with, or other people that you know that perhaps don't know of this or have never even thought about this. So yes, just anywhere that you're finding this episode, share it, comment, whatever you're finding it. Thank you, Jacqui, so much for the work that you're doing and for taking the time to
and
be
thanks
here.
for creating these platforms. It's good to thank you, Brian. And thanks for creating these platforms, because there's a study actually that show that internationally, we're relevant. The nurse's story is only told 2% of the time. So it's really good for us to be invited onto these platforms so that we can actually share the message that we really are very much the powerhouses in these in health. And when our stories aren't shared, then it's really tricky. And that's something else that we've done as well. We've supported several now of our frontliners to write their stories. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Jacqui, once more. And thank you, everyone, for being here with us. And we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using #ConsciousAction and tagging @ConsciousActionNZ so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.